All right, today we're going to talk about solving absolute value equations. Before we solve just normal equations, so what are we going to do now? We're going to evaluate some things using just absolute value, and then we're also going to solve absolute value equations. So two different objectives here. So let's look at our first key concept. What is an absolute value? Now, many of you know that it's these symbols here, and many of you know that you just make the answer positive. Well, it's -4 equals 4 or 4 equals 4. But here's the official definition. The thing that you need to understand with absolute value is it is the distance from zero. And because a distance has to be positive, all of our answers are positive. So how far is -4 from zero? Well, it's 4 units. How far is 4 from zero? It is also 4 units. So that's what it really needs to be. It's the distance away from zero. So here's a basic problem. We're just going to substitute our 4 in here. We will solve the absolute value, treat it like parentheses. So we have the original one, and then we're substituting in the 4. So we're going to have to do the 6 minus 2 times 4, so the 2 times 4 first, and then we're going to do 6 minus 2 times 4, of course, is 8. Subtract it, and we get -2. Now is when we get to go ahead and take the absolute value. Absolute value of -2, how far is -2 from 0? It's 2 spots. So 2 plus 7 plus 2, which then gives us our 4.7, which of course is our answer. How do we solve absolute value equations? We have to do a couple steps here. First, we're going to get the absolute value by itself, and then we're going to split it into a positive and a negative case, and then we're going to solve each of those cases. So let's go through these. Let's go through an example here. All right, this is a really basic one. Notice that the absolute value does not have anything else. There's no +4 on the outside or a ×3 up here. We're going to get to those that have those, but for right now, we're not dealing with that. And this equals 8. So we don't have to do that first step because there's nothing else over here. So all we're going to do is we're going to do our two cases. Case 1 is the positive one, where A just equals B. So it's y plus 3 equals 8. And we're just going to continue solving this one. Subtract 3 from both sides, and y equals 5. Now let's do the other case. Now this is where it's the negative case. A equals -b. So we're going to go ahead and rewrite this. Y plus 3, that stays the same, but now it's going to equal -8. So this time it equals positive. Over here it's negative. That is going to get us 2 answers. We will tend to have 2 answers. Sometimes the 2 answers, of course, would be the same, but this time they're not. We have 5 and -11, and those are our 2 answers. Now we're going to go back and check them like every good mathematician should, and you get 8 equals 8, and over here we get, surprisingly, 8 equals 8. So our answers are -11 and 5. Notice these little brackets just to make it kind of not look like a ordered pair. If you had the ordered pair ones, if you just had the parentheses, I'm not going to yell at you too much. All right, here's another one. Let's try this one. Now, with this one, we do have a 3 in front. So we can't split this yet. We're going to have to get rid of it. So here's my original problem rewritten. And now I'm going to divide by 3 because I can't have that 3 in front. That's like a multiply. I cannot distribute it. That can cause me some issues if I distribute it. So I'm not going to. I'm going to divide by 3 to get it out of there. And then I get 2x minus 5 equals 5. Now I can split it. So here we have the positive, and here we have the negative. Notice it's 2x minus 5 both times. The absolute value does not change. It just goes ahead, whatever is on the other side. So how do we get rid of the -5? We add 5. And notice we could kind of do the same thing on both sides at the same time. Kind of work 2 problems. Can you work the first one down all the way? Sure. Or whichever order you want to. But they will be solved very similarly. Answers, of course, will be a little bit different. So 2x equals 10. Over here, 2x would equal 0. -5 plus 5 is 0. Divide both by 2, and x equals 5, and x equals 0. So our answer is 0 and 5. Now, it is possible for us to get a no solution. Let me show you how. Here we have the absolute value plus 5 equals 0. Now, again, we have to get this absolute value by itself. So this plus 5 has got to move. So there's the original. We're going to move it over, and it makes it -5. Now, remember what I said. Absolute values have to be positive because it's a distance. How can I have a distance of -5? I can't. And since that can never happen, this is never true, and we have the no solution. And yes, we can just go ahead and write the null set here. There is something we need to be careful of. It's an extraneous solution. It occurs only when there are variables. It requires checking of both answers. An extraneous solution are not valid, and those answers must be excluded. There could be 0, 1, or 2 answers. I got 2 examples for us to go ahead and work through. All right, so here's the first one. Notice it's going to have 1 solution. That's okay. We have 8 plus y equals 2y plus 3, minus 3, sorry. So here's our first case, just the positive one. So notice nothing changes in the positive one. And we're just going to go ahead and solve this. Move the y over, so it's just y. Add the 3 over, so 11. And y equals 11. Case 2 is the negative one. Now notice what's going to happen here. We have to make both of these, you've got more than one thing, so we have to make both of these negative. So 8 plus y equals negative 2y minus 3. And we're going to have to distribute that negative. So it's negative 2y and a positive 3. Notice how they both ended up switching. Now I'm still going to move my y, and this time we're going to move it over to the left just to keep it positive. It's easier that way. Move the 8 over, so it's negative 5. Divide by 3, and we get negative 5/3. Now these are both answers, and they seem like they work. We're going to need to plug them back in because there could be this extraneous solution I was talking about. Let's find out what happens. So we go ahead and we plug in into the first one here. We're going to plug the 11. 8 plus 11 is 19. 2 times 11 is 22 minus 3, which is 19. 19 equals 19. That's pretty darn good. That's what we want. Let's look at it over here, however. Put in the negative 5/3. What happens? We get 19/3 over here, and we have negative 10/3. 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. And then, of course, the minus 3. So we're still going to have to subtract that. And this is 19/3 equals negative 19/3. As close as they are in terms of the lettering, one just being positive and negative, they're not the same number. And so we can't have that. That's why these are X'd out. It's an extraneous solution. We did everything right, and it looked like negative 5/3 was the correct answer, but it's not. And so we must exclude it. So the only answer we have then is this 11. Let's try one more. Let's try this one, and let's go ahead and try it out. So here's the positive side. 3x minus 5 equals 2x plus 1. And then we have 3x minus 5 equals negative 2x minus 1, because I have to do both of them negative. Subtract the 2 over. Here I'm going to add the 2 because it's opposite. So a little bit of difference. So why don't we just focus on 1 first? So we're going to do minus 2x, which is x minus 5 equals 1. Add 5 to both, and x equals 6. Now over here, we're going to add and get 5x. The minus 1 comes down. Add 5, so we get 4, and x equals 4/5. So now we need to check it. 6 times 3 minus 5 is 13. 13 also. 13 equals 13. Sounds pretty good. Here we do the 4/5, and we get negative 13/5, and over here we get 13/5, which is 13/5. That's good too. This one actually, both answers check out. It doesn't always happen that way, but you need to be prepared in case it does. So you need to check these, especially when you get a variable over here. That's your key to, hey, I got to make sure that I check them. The first couple ones we really didn't need to, because without having a variable in there, it's not going to change. All right. That is all I have for you today.